Hello, welcome to lesson 40 of Learn Biblical Hebrew, and this is the third of a three-part lesson looking at some magnificent words of the prophet Isaiah that come from Isaiah chapter 2. And today we're going to look at verses 4 and 5, and this is surely the pinnacle of the peak of the summit of world literature, where lofty yet simple poetry joins hands with a lofty yet simple theme, and the beauty of the expression matches the beauty of the idea. I don't know about you, but sometimes you read poetry and you think, wow, what wonderful expression, but when you look at the ideas that are expressed, are sometimes fairly trivial or even nasty sometimes. But here we have a magnificent theme matches the magnificence of the language, which is why I say it's right at the top of world literature. And it expresses the longing of every human heart for peace. In the English-speaking world, it's been made famous by the King James Version rendering. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And those words have echoed down through history with their relevance no less today than they ever were. Ushafat ben Hagoyim Wahokiach L'ramim Rabim Wakitzu Harvothaim Leitim. Letter by letter, and he will judge. Again, this has been changed by the toggle switch to refer to future now. Its form is a perfect, which is normally referring to something completed or something in the past, but it's been toggle switched by the to talk about the future. And he will judge between Hagoyim, the peoples. Wohokiach, notice the ach sound comes before the a vowel, comes before the ch, and he will decide. Well, the word could also mean judge. In this case, I think decide is the appropriate meaning. Le ramim, for peoples, rabim, many. So again, as in the previous verse, we have the two different words really used in the same sense, goyim and ramim. Wakitzu, and they will beat charvotam. So cherev means sword, so the vowels change as it becomes plural, oth, and then the ending means their swords. Le itim, two plowshares or mattocks. Now the plowshare is the iron digging part at the bottom of the wooden plow. That's what a plowshare is. But in our translation here we've just written plow, because the technical detail of what a plowshare is unknown to most people today. This word is unknown, and we don't want the details of technical bits of meaning to get in the way of the big message that it's saying, or to make it sound clumsy, because these words are carefully crafted in Hebrew to flow nicely and to reflect a nice literary structure. Let's see how we've translated it. Perhaps you can improve on this. This is not a final word by any means. It's a suggested translation. He will settle disputes among great nations. So they've taken the rabim to mean great nations. And they will hammer their swords into ploughs. Hammer their swords into ploughs. Come the day. It hasn't come yet. So swords, of course, is used to represent all weapons of war. There's swords into ploughs, and in typical Hebrew structure we're going to repeat it in another parallel statement, which is saying the same thing really in different words. V'chanithothehem l'mazmeroth lo yinsa goy el goy cheref v'lo yilmadu rod milchama. So there's cheref, the word sword, just by itself in its normal form with its normal vowels, cheref. So let's see what we get here word by word. And their spears, so this ending here means their spears, oth, the plural ending, with the end at the beginning. Le mazmeroth, 2 pruning knives. Lo, not, lift up, will lift up in this case. Goy, el goy, 2 people. Cherev, sword. Lo, and not, they will learn God anymore, milchama. So this was repeated from before. Their swords into ploughs, and now their spears into pruning knives. Nation will not lift up a sword against nation, neither will they learn war anymore. So let's see how a modern translation has tried to do this. Their spears into pruning knives. Nations will never again go to war, never prepare for battle again. This is mostly from the Good News Bible, which is, in my view, an excellent modern English translation. You might say that it struggles a little bit with the poetry here, but it's a difficult job translation. Your first priority is to get the meaning, and then secondly you might want to get some of the elevated poetry that's definitely contained in these words. Well, they've done their best, and I think they've done pretty well. Nations will never again go to war, never prepare for battle again. Come the day, but not yet. And we'll just conclude it with verse 5. Beth Yaakov, Luku Wunelika Be'or Yahweh. House of Jacob. Luku, come and let us go. Again, this word, which has occurred several times in this passage from verse 1 to verse 5. And as I said, sometimes it corresponds to the English word come, and sometimes to go. Come and let us. So this ne here means us, and it's with the on the end. It's like expressing a wish, or what's sometimes called a first person command. Go, let's go. So meaning in this case, let's travel, let's lead our lives. Or Yahweh, in the light of Yahweh. Okay, so that finishes it there, but I just want to come back to this and make a few comments. Why does it say they shall not learn war anymore? Why does it use that word learn? Why doesn't it say something like they shall not wage war anymore? Well, I think knowing the poetic structure, we can see the reason here is because of the similarity of sound between these two words. Yilmadu, milchama, the shared letters. Starts with the same vowel, mil, yil, and then it has the M in it as well. I think there are poetical reasons why it said learn war. So in my view, it could be, you could translate wage war in view of the fact that the word was chosen partly for its sound, but that's a matter of debate. And Another interesting comment, we could say that the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, enabled evangelists like Paul to carry the Christian message to most of the known world. But the Roman peace was brutally imposed and enforced. Now, this is talking about the people's voluntarily coming to the Lord to learn peace. By the way, as the commentator I was reading said, everybody today wants peace, but who is willing to go and learn from the Lord, from the Christian God, from the God of Israel, about that kind of peace? But Isaiah is saying this is where it's to be had. When we went to Vanuatu, we lived on a little island called Urpif, and there was an old man there who had been alive when the early missionaries had come around the turn of the 20th century, and he said people talked of the Great Peace. Before that, they'd had patchy peace, but the missionaries, with the help of the British colonial government, we have to admit, but basically because they brought a message of peace, they were able to establish what the people called the Great Peace. And you can imagine the sigh of relief that the people breathed, having lived in fear and terror for generations beyond memory of the sudden raid in the middle of the night where every man is killed, the women and children are taken away, and the whole village is burnt down. Coming to modern times, most countries have enjoyed peace since the end of World War II, but again it's been an armed peace with fighting breaking out here and there all the time. Majority of people in the Western world, anyway, are now enjoying unprecedented peace and security. You read through the Old Testament to see how for long periods of the history the Israelites lived in fear of war or of raiders who would come without notice and rape, kill and burn. So this verse in Isaiah has a wonderful appeal to both us and them. It talks of a full, true, God-given and blessed peace. He will settle disputes among great nations. They will hammer their swords into ploughs and their spears into pruning knives. Nations will never again go to war, never prepare for battle again. So what a wonderful privilege it is for us to still have these words preserved, written by the great Hebrew prophet Isaiah nearly 3,000 years ago. And it's also interesting to trace how these words have been used and quoted down throughout history. Just one example that I came across on Wikipedia. In their speeches at the signing of the 1979 Egypt-Israel peace treaty, Jimmy Carter, Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin all referenced this saying, calling for peace. And then another example that's given, nitrogen mustard, developed from the chemical weapon mustard gas developed in World War I, became the basis for the world's first chemotherapy drug, mustine, developed through the 1940s. So there's a case of it actually happening where a weapon of war was remade into something for peace that's benefited so many people. So these are wonderful words, and it's a great privilege that we have to be able to study them in the original language that Isaiah the prophet himself said and wrote all those years ago, that have echoed down through history and still speak to the deepest longings of people right up living today.